Hi YouTube, Tim here, and as you can see I've got a piece of scrap pipe. Right now, actually I've got several pieces of scrap pipe, and I may use both of them because what they're going to do is they're going to form pieces that I'm going to shape around a hilt for a rapier. This should look pretty darn cool. If you're wondering the exact length of each of these, this is about 14 inches long, and this one is about 8 to 9. Let me go ahead and I will measure it, and then we can be exactly sure. Only I could find my ruler. Okay. So what did I say? 14 inches? Perfect. And 9.5. Not bad. This one here is 2 feet long, but that's not for this project. That's something else that I'm going to be working on later. Not entirely unrelated, but for the moment, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take, say, this one, the 14-inch long one, and I'm going to cut it into strips using the tin snips. So first of all, we just need to heat it. I actually have a few ideas for different ways you could do this. One of them would be to take a razor blade after you heat it and make slices through it. That might be an even better way to do this, because then you could push them together to flare it out and twist it, and, well, you'll see. But I'm going to try it the way I originally envisioned, which was like this. We just want to get the entire pipe nice and hot so we can start to open it up and cut off strips of it. Something I was contemplating building, and this is an interesting idea, is a little bag made of aluminum foil into which I could put pieces of PVC. I would have one end open at the other side with small holes, and the other end open large enough for me to insert the heat gun. The thought being that if I were to do this, I could then basically create a little hot pocket, or sort of an oven of sorts, that would allow me to soften the PVC. I haven't tried that yet, but it's not the worst idea in the world. It would allow you to heat these things faster, more evenly, less risk of burning because you're not applying the hot air directly. It's certainly something that's worth looking into. I like fun projects like that. Lately I've been kept pretty busy doing, well, work, real life, non-PVC related things, but don't get me wrong, this is still my hobby. Something that I very much enjoy doing, so I'm glad to be able to share it with you. It's probably good enough to start the cut, so let's go ahead and just do that now and see if we can snip it all the way to the top. Cool. Now I'm actually going to just keep on going right here where I was. I'm just going to see if I can take off an entire strip. Then once I either can or can't, I'm going to continue heating it, and man, the glove gets hot. Isn't that lovely? Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Just imagine what we can do with that. To be totally honest, I don't need to heat all sides of the pipe, just the side that I'm cutting. Okay, let's try it again. This time I'm going to use a heat pad, just in case, because that was getting hot. Maybe I'm wimpy, but whatever. There you go. I'm just trying to maintain a fairly constant thickness all the way down to the end. It's not going to be perfect, but it doesn't have to be. Especially come down to it, it's going to be pretty cool, just all on its own. Now, if you can, I guess we could try and start another one. See if it's too hard already. No, so far so good. Look at those lovely curves. That's actually almost what I want it to be already. The more I can get to take a nice shape like that, the better, because that's what I want it to look like, more or less, with some minor encouragement. I'm not sure how many of these I'm going to take. I thought maybe I'll just cut up one entire pipe, and then we'll see what happens. If I need more, I can't imagine needing more. Well, you'll see. Right, back to business. Just keep at it. Make sure you can see what I'm doing, which is pretty straightforward. I'm just snipping strips. That's it. So some of them are coming out straight, some of them are coming out curved. I prefer the curved ones, but both of them will find use. Promise you that. I think when I cut them thinner, it has a tendency to torque itself over and curl. Which is pretty cool. I have to keep going at a... See, look at that. See, it's spinning. I'm pushing it down as it's getting cut. It's going down. Whoops. Too short, but like I said, I'll find use for all of them. Where was I? Let me see if I can just continue snipping to the end so we can maintain nice evenness to the pipe. Okay, back to heating. Between each cut, I'm just heating it. Actually, I'm getting 2 cuts out of it, so that's pretty cool. This isn't as much work or as hard as I thought it was going to be. If you had a bandsaw, what you could do is you could flatten it out straight and then you could just cut strips. I find this easier and cleaner because, man, I hate PVC dust. It gets everywhere. I'm always concerned about exposing myself to dust when I cut wood, when I cut PVC. I use a respirator now, but nevertheless, less is definitely more in this case. So anyway, I probably will go over the edges of this thing ultimately with some sandpaper or something to smooth it off. So don't be too concerned that I'm gonna forego traditional methods entirely. Looky there, another one. Nice curl. It's great. You got a little hard near the end, so it's hard to cut. I'm gonna heat it up again. I don't even think we've used half the pipe. Maybe we have, but we're going to get a good half dozen, oh, more than half dozen, maybe 10 or 15 strips out of this, at least. As long as we keep it warm as we're doing it, this is pretty darn simple. We're going to have a whole variety of strips to choose from for the final work that I'm planning. Specifically, that being, have you seen, surely, you've seen in pictures some very ornately decorated hilts. Some very impressive looking rapiers. This is going to be, as far as I can make one, similar to that. I want it to be gaudy, a bit on the gaudy side. Oh, that's getting a little stiff, so let's heat the whole strip there. That should be fine, and continue. While it's still a little soft, I am going to add a little twist to it if I can. You can always put more twist into it later, play around with it, so no big deal if you're not able to do this. I was actually planning on curling them around a Pringle can or some soda bottle, something like that, something of suitable size. But if they come out practically ready to go, that's, heck, double plus good, right? Oh, again. Alright, so you see the point. I'm just going to go ahead and finish this up, and then we'll continue. Here we are now. We've got a whole bunch of strips. I actually took this longer remnant and I flattened it out and then smoothed the edges. It's not perfectly straight, but pretty close. And for the moment, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I was thinking that I would make this the crossguard, or a rather part of the crossguard and part of something else here. Let me show you. We've got, what I was going to use is the hilt, the actual hilt. And I was thinking of using this. If I bend it too tightly now without heating it, I'm afraid it's going to snap. But I was going to bend it from there down there. So it'll guard the hand and then over the top to provide a cross. That may or may not be fine. I'm not sure. And to be totally honest with you, maybe I'll go ahead and cut this into several smaller pieces. But for now, what we have to work with are these small, twirly little pieces. I think later on, if I were going to do this again, I might want them a little bit longer than 14 inches. But for now, this is what I've got. And I'm going to make it work. So the first thing to do is, here's a model. This is roughly what it should look like when it's done. Now, that's pretty ambitious, but we'll see. We'll see if it comes out and if it's possible to do something even remotely this cool. I'm going to give it my effort. So right now, we have one of them. Let's just go ahead and start. Actually, what we can do is we can use these as, you see this piece right here? From here all the way down, and then it'll loop around. That is pretty darn close to what it's eventually going to be. So if I have two pieces, say, that are pretty close to that, that's already almost what you'd want in terms of welding them together, gluing them together, and making There you go. Because see, from this perspective over here, you can see how it's really several pieces all joined together. So if we were to, say, glue them like so up here, I really should take these gloves off. Okay. Glue them up something like this, and then like that. Then they're both going to join the hilt, the actual crossguard area. And from there I can use separate pieces to do different things, and I'll probably reshape the end. But for now I think I'll probably go ahead and I'll glue these portions together. I have some hot glue, and I'll go and just get it right here by my left finger and right here by my right finger. Let's go do that. Okay, there's some glue. Let's just make sure it takes. That's nice. Nice. Squirt a little bit on the other side, reinforce it a bit, because this is not something I'd like to come apart. Although it very well may. Yeah, see, it's even kind of weak right now. Okay. So far, so good. It's not super strong, but it'll hold it at least until I get it all done. So now, let's go and glue it at the other end right there. That's already looking pretty elegant, I think. Just gonna put a big dollop of glue, and then we can always remove excess later. Just squish it the heck on there. Yeah. Ah, slipped. That didn't work out too well. Okay, so there we go. What I'm going to end up doing is just hitting that with a heat gun to melt some of that glue, or I'll take, better yet, the tip of the hot glue gun and remelt that hot glue there. Force a little bit more hot glue into this junction. And then do the same thing on the other side. Make sure there's plenty of glue. Now really, I'm going to need to take breaks between each of these applications. I'm going to have to go and reheat the hot glue gun and let that get hot again, because I keep coming over, and if I'm doing it in front of you, then it cools off in between. The bottom line is, this is what I'm doing. I'm just joining pieces like this together to form a nice lattice. So the first few are going to be this section right there, that portion of the hilt. That's going to bend around, and then I'm going to have two more. Let's see. This will form one end, and then there will be another loop around here that'll curl, and another loop. Well, you'll see. I'll just keep on doing pretty much the same thing. Okay. I suppose we could use this as the cross guard. That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. If I were just to cut this in half, it would be not strong enough per se. See, I really want to wait on that piece. So, okay, I'm going to wait on that piece, and we'll just fit all of this together and then insert that through it. So let me get working on this, and then I'll show you on some of the pieces of PVC, and you're going to see the results eventually, but for the moment I wanted to go and show you something else. The cross guard. I actually took that strip that I had made, and I had cut it in half, and then I glued two halves together to make it a little bit, well, a lot stiffer, and then I put hot glue all along the edges to make it nice and smooth. Now eventually we're going to put 2 little bulbs or balls or something on the end just to make it look right. But for the moment, this is all we're going to do. I wanted to go right to the step now of flattening the blade. Essentially, I'd like to flatten the whole thing. Let's say this is the handle. I'm going to make the blade a little bit longer. So I say, let's put it in halfway. Sound good? Great. Halfway then, I'm just going to make a mark. And as soon as I make that mark, we can go ahead and start doing the flattening. Now one thing of note is my jig, or my block, isn't long enough. So I'm going to go ahead and flatten, first of all, the outer portion. Then I'm going to come back and I can flatten the inner portion. But I may not flatten it much because I've said this before. The rounder it is near the base, the more stable it will be in all directions. If it's flat, it's only stable in the front and it's only stable along the widthways, but it has a tendency to buckle in the other directions. So let's just avoid that whole issue. So that may be what I end up doing. Let's go and flatten the blade. I like 1/2-inch pipe. It heats up much faster than the 3/4 inch, although I am heating a longer section. Trade-offs. I do that just for a sense of scale, so I know exactly how much I have to use, how much space I should heat, that is. Alright, looks like that's nice and soft, nice and hot. So let's get flattening. In the case of the weapons, I really do like to do it up on the table here, but unfortunately this thing is pretty darn large and it really is much easier to do things this large down here on the floor. So now we know that the blade is straight. Just remembering that we can correct curves down the road. It's not that urgent. I'm going to put most of my force right down here at the end. And then, after much less time than normal, I'm going to flip it and do the same thing to the other side. Otherwise it will be more like a bow, you know, it'll be tapered towards one flat side. Okay, so now let's just flip it, correct for straightness, and flatten again. That's about it. Actually, it looks like the board here is a little bit bowed, so it'll be better if I put it down this way. Yeah, that's better. Now it's nice and straight. Just want to make sure you can see me. Great. Flip, straighten, and flatten. Rinse, lather, repeat, right? Okay. So it's getting pretty cool. Still warm enough that we can correct that tiny little kink in the front, although most of that's going to be cut away anyhow, so don't worry too much. This is pretty good. That is pretty darn good. Now I had made a sword which I thought was very similar to a rapier, and I had used just this length. That is a 41, I believe it's a 41, maybe it's a 38 inch long piece. Let me check that for you. It's probably 38 inches long. Yeah, 38 was the original length. Now it's 37.5 because of the flattening. But that's the size of it. And I had used that for most of the swords that I've been making. Originally the Mamluk sword. I just took the end and crimped it up. And that was nice. But here it's going to be a little bit longer, a little bit more like a real rapier. Now that we have the blade basically done, let's just come back here and we'll heat up the handle so we can stick it on by that amount, roughly to halfway. I almost wonder if we couldn't heat this pipe and force it in, but that might be harder, so... Okay, I'm just going to grab my glove so I can start forcing it on. That was easy. Alright, that's good enough. It's as far in as I want it. Great. Then we are going to remove that later. I'll slip it off and I can glue it back on in position in the proper spot. Just make sure it's nice and straight, which it is. The sword itself is a tiny bit bowed, so I'm going to try and fix that right now. Perfect. Good. Alright. It's actually pretty cool looking down the tube. And neat. Alright. So we have this all done. Now all we need to do is put on the crossguard and then put on the rest of it. And then just finish decorating. Again, Kent Cogan, my friend, that was amazing, showing what you did with the paint and how it didn't come off. Because I'm telling you, I've even taken hammered metal paint, maybe not that brand, that might be the problem, and I put it on a tomahawk, and I hit a piece of cardboard, and even that took off some of the paint. Now I didn't put clear coat on top of it. Maybe that was my problem. But believe me, the paint was thoroughly dry, so I'd taken care of all the other things that could have been issues. Anyway, I haven't had quite as great success. So what I'm going to do now is, now that should be pretty cool, well, tell you what, let's leave it on. Let's just heat right there at the joint. Rotate it fairly quickly because you are focusing all the heat on one spot. That's generally not a good thing. especially since right here it will be subjected to a lot of force and it might end up cracking. And if we heated it enough, we should be able to just go snip. Not quite, almost. The problem isn't so much the softness of the PVC, it's just getting a grip on it. The stuff is slippery. Drilling it might be better for a very, very tiny cut like this. I've done all sorts of things which are marginally advisable. Okay, so there we go. It's not open yet, but actually that's fine. If I force it in, that'll work. Now we just want to go side opposite, put that straight down, and then I want to try and make another cut right there. Okay, I'm going to continue heating a little bit now. I want to make sure that whole area is nice and soft. I'm going to make one more attempt just to widen that hole over here on the far side, not the side that I initially cut. That's working pretty well. This is where the crossguard's going, in case you hadn't figured that out. Alright, there you go. Okay, I tore out enough of it so that I'm satisfied that I can probably... Ow, jeez. See, look at that. I gotta get new gloves. Burn myself right through it. Explains that burning sensation I've been having in my thumb, huh? Great. Cool. Alright. So now that we've opened that up just enough, I think. A little more heat, and then I'm going to force through the crossguard. If that was enough, then we won't have any problems. Let's try forcing this in. Yowza. Okay, in is no problem. Now comes the out part. Hey, look at that. I'm going to support it on both sides with my fingers as I ram it through like that. Okay. I'm going to manually go ahead and puff that area up with my thumbs. My fingers. I don't want it to be too thin. Basically, it should just be a through and through puncture. If we have to, we can always reinforce it later, but I'd rather not have to. I mean, the whole point of this was to be a pretty simple operation. If this doesn't turn out to work real well, then in the future just don't use this technique. Try something else, drill a hole, put a pipe through it, the whole pipe, make bigger holes. I'm just playing around. I've never tried something quite like this. That's pretty darn wide. So, if it doesn't work, I understand. But so far it looks pretty good. I'm going to go over and run it under some cold water. Another benefit is that since it's nice and hot, it started to melt all that good hot glue we put in there. And all that beautiful hot glue is holding it on. It will hold it in place. Great. Yeah, that's nice. The only thing, clumsy me, I didn't think of is the axis of the blade, where the actual blade was. That should line up with the crossguard. So silly me, I didn't do that, but whatever. I'll heat the blade up later and reflatten it. That's not an issue. That's really, really simple stuff. Again, I like making mistakes because I just didn't think about it. Usually I do, but occasionally stuff like that slips my mind, and I'm glad I can do it on camera so that maybe you'll say, oh, Tim screwed up like that. This way I don't have to. I'll remember it. And hopefully you should see exactly what I was planning with all of this stuff. That should slip right on here and slide all the way down to the guard like that. Nice. Pretty cool. Alright, let's see if I can get that down a little further. Yeah, I like it better like that, truth be told. So once you get it into the position you want, now we're going to go ahead and glue it. So let me get the glue gun. And it touches in several spots. So the first spot I'm going to glue it on is right here. Right at the center, the heart of it. Figure you get that stuff to stick and it should be pretty well stuck everywhere. At this point I need to get another hot glue stick. Which I'm running out of, by the way. I've used 99 of them. In other words, it's a pack of 99 in the past year. I haven't used quite that many, but going on it. Okay, so now we've got that glued. Let's find another point of contact. How about over here? That's good. Cram that full of hot glue. Put a little bit down here, how about? And it doesn't have to be an area that touches, just has to be close enough so that it could touch. And that's what we're using. So like right here where it almost touches the, actually if I let go it does touch. I was trying to hold it a little bit off kilter there. But I think it's just going to want to go back on its own naturally. So I'll just go and I'll glue that on there. Why fight it? Let's just use the fact that it wants to be glued down, right? Okay. The next part of this was this, which is the it'll fit through there. This will be, did I get it backwards? There we go. One of these sides, that one, this is the graceful side, so that's going to be the one, is going to be the one that's guarding the hand down here, something like that. There we go. That's the stuff, right like that. That also provides more points of contact up here so I can brace it against the sword and the other parts of the cross guard. So like right here, that'll touch it. Well, eventually what I'd like to do is either go over all of these rather rough looking pieces with putty to round them off and make them more elegant. At the moment I'm not going to, but that's the goal down the road. It would look much nicer doing that. Look much more finished. But for the moment, just as a proof of concept, I wanted to just get this done fairly quickly. This is mostly, like I say, just a proof that it's doable and it'll look good when it's done. I do not claim to be the most artistic of gentlemen here, but if I can make it look halfway decent, I know some of you guys out there are going to turn this thing into a stunning work of art. So I'm not ashamed to go and do the best job that I can do at the drop of a hat, just to show you guys the sort of thing that's possible. That's really it. Like I said, I want to make two little things to put on here, balls to put on there, and then I'll cap off the bottom. I will reflatten the blade, then I'm going to paint the whole thing metallic, and that's really it. Tell me that doesn't look pretty slick, huh? Even as it is. It's not finished, but tell me that doesn't look cool, huh? Thank you for watching. I really hope this was fun. I think it looks pretty cool, and I hope it's, you know, satisfying that you get to see some neat new things that I haven't done before. I try and do something new, or do this, even if I'm making the same things for a video, I try and do it in a different way, so that if it works, it's great, and, you know, we can all learn something. Or if it fails, we know what not to do. I'm pretty happy with how this is turning out, so thanks for watching, and I hope you're having fun. Take it easy, guys. Tune in again soon.